Start your engines for episode number 41 of Endless Conversation Loop. Yeah! I am Brandon, and I am here with my co-host for this podcast that will be vying for the checkered flag. His name is...
This is Boom in the pole position.
Indeed you are right now, and we are here today to discuss some racetracks, because it's very topically relevant based on a certain release from the previous week. But of course, it's also
Considering also that I did tip my hand on it the last episode, so...
Okay, well, you know, that might have helped too. You're right. But it just kind of all worked out together. Before we get into that, though, is there anything that's been going on, that you'd be interested in discussing beyond the racetracks today?
Weirdly, you used the word beyond. So, as of the recording of this episode, we are at the weekend of the Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy set releasing officially, which I have already been dipping my toe in that water more than even I was expecting. I'm a very big Magic the Gathering player. I may have mentioned it here on the show before, but I have not really gotten too into the Final Fantasy video game series. So I wasn't expecting to really get too far in with a lot of this. It's like, oh, cool, they have it, whatever. And then just kind of moved on with it. I have already bought, there's a full box of the play boosters on my desk currently. There's 2 of the pre-con commanders we bought earlier, they had their pre-release events over here last week, so I just kind of was sitting there and I'm like, wow, I'm more into this than I expected, so now I might have to actually get more into the Final Fantasy games as a result.
Now, which games in the series is this set based off? Is there any one in particular? Is it based on multiple? Because the Final Fantasies can all be vastly different from each other.
Overall, it's an entire history of the games between 1 and 16, including, I think it's more of the mainline games. So there's not Final Fantasy Tactics as far as I'm aware. I think there's a mention of Crystal Chronicles, but primarily it's the main games in the franchise. And the Precon Commanders all actually were heavily focused on certain games in addition to their typical archetypes. There's a Final Fantasy VII themed deck, there's a Final Fantasy XIV themed deck. Those are the 2 that I bought recently. There's also one for Final Fantasy VI primarily, and Final Fantasy X, if I remember right.
So the 3 games that I would think would be the most popular, the classic pre-Final Fantasy VII game that's the most popular, and of course Final Fantasy VII itself, and then, the post-Final Fantasy VII game that I would tend to think is the most popular, although there are, people do love their Final Fantasy IX, so I don't want to step toes on that one. That one's supposed to be pretty good too.
And there are a lot of nods. The decks are one thing. Typically it's they'll have anywhere between 2 to 5 decks at one go. They only did 4 for this one, which is, I think a good middle ground for it. But all the themes of the decks actually hit pretty well from what I understand of the games. The Final Fantasy VII deck, the entire main characters that you would have in there primarily focus on equipping your guys with certain things like Buster Sword or Materia, that sort of thing. But it also has this whole sub theme around if you can get the number 7 to hit with certain elements of the characters, of the main party ones. So Cloud and Tifa are the 2 characters you can out of the box use as your commander, and both of them have a theme of if you have 7 or more, this effect happens. In Cloud's case, it's you get treasure tokens when he hits or something like that. And then Tifa's is if you hit with 7 or more power with her, you get additional combat steps, which just fits really flavorfully. The whole series, or not the series, the whole set has really done their research in terms of all these little intricacies from across the entirety of the franchise, and really did a good job of kind of portraying it in the card game. Like, one of my favorite cards that actually is in the set is a card called Overkill. It's a instant speed spell where it gives target creature -0, -9,999 until end of turn. So it effectively is a kill spell that acts like a critical hit.
Jeez. That,
Like, it's so funny to see that, because of, like, there's no reason it needed to do that except for flavor, but it's so nice that they did that. And for me, who I've only played through Final Fantasy IV all the way through, I was able to instantly recognize, like, all the characters from that game when I played it, and I was so happy to see how they were, like, kind of portrayed. Like, the main character specifically that you play as, I think it's Cecil, he has a whole thing mid-game where he kind of flips from this dark paladin to, like, a light paladin, and they portray that in the card by his card, like, at a certain point will flip to the light side, which I think is really cool. Kane, who's one of the characters that, like, is constantly going between, like, he's an ally, now he's an enemy, and back and forth. They portrayed that in the card where it's like basically after he hits somebody, that person gets control of him then until he hits somebody else. So it's just really funny to see, like, all these cards that have really, like, been thoughtfully crafted to kind of, like, tie into what it is that they are trying to do from the game. And the best part, everyone else has already talked about it. I don't care. I'm going to also talk about it. Are you familiar with the suplex train meme?
I swear I've heard the term before. I want to say that's a Final Fantasy VII thing, but I was saying,
close.
I could not specifically pinpoint which one it was.
So the meme is that it's from Final Fantasy VI, where I think it's Sabin. There is an ability he gets called suplex, but there is a boss fight where you are literally fighting a ghost train, and for some ungodly reason, Sabin can suplex the ghost train. And it works every time. It's like a really good ability to use on it in the boss fight. I don't know why. I cannot wait to play 6 solely for that reason. But they have a card called Suplex, and I kid you not, the artwork is literally Sabin running up to the train, going to suplex it. And I'm like, yes!
Man, I should have remembered that, because I've seen that before when it's like they're running away from the train.
Yeah, they're running away, then Sabin's like, nah.
Just an absurd moment in that game, and well needed, because it also has so many sad moments too.
Yeah, I just love this set, man. Like, I was not anticipating to be this hype on it when it was coming out. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But now I'm, like, really invested with it, because it's like, they even, like, with the commander decks, and this is the last thing I'll bring up on it, the commander decks themselves, out of the box, have all original artwork for even the existing cards in Magic. So, like, I think I showed you this, actually, like, I don't know if it was on the show or if it was, like, after we're done recording. The Inspiring Call card that was the Titus Laugh from 10.
I do think you sent that to me once we'd finished recording, because I'm pretty sure this is first when we brought it up. But yes, it's the iconic awkward laugh. Yes. I know the idea was, like, that, like, the laugh was supposed to be awkward, but at the same time, there's still something about it that makes me go, like, why did they think that was a good idea?
Because it was, like, 2010, so voice acting wasn't, like, the most prevalent thing, per se.
Oh my god, no, it had to be way earlier than that. It was a PS2 game. A pre-Square Enix PS2 game, wasn't it?
Let's find out. When did Final Fantasy X release? Final Fantasy... 2001?
I am barely older than Final Fantasy X.
I feel incredibly old now. Oh, no. July 19th, 2001 is what I'm reading right now.
Yep, I think we can comfortably call Final Fantasy X a retro game now.
I think anything over 20 qualifies as retro, if I remember right.
I don't think that there's actually a proper delineation, but that seems to be like the
consensus,
sort of like...
I feel like.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you've been enjoying more paper, more cards. I know that was one of our first running topics. We haven't been able to add a new tally to the uses of cards in the show list in a while, so like we're getting back to tradition, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I'm very excited to kind of see more of it. Like, I still have one more deck that I really want to get to. I'm trying to debate if I'm going to buy all four, but I don't know yet. But I was going to get the Titus theme commander deck, too, because that actually sounds like something I'd really enjoy. But I'm also debating... There's some cards in that deck, or in the set, I should say, that I'm very excited to see when those come out. Like, they have an Aerith card, but they did a special edition promo one where they did the Cherith meme. So it's literally just Aerith in like this really nice formal gown with a steel chair over her head about to slam it on some enemy. And I'm like, I'm owning this card. I do not care how I have to get it. Like, it's so stupid, but I am so excited that that exists.
It's a pretty funny image to think about.
Oh, yeah. It's easily my favorite artwork. The only problem is I think it's like a judge promo for like Magic events, so like it's probably going to cost me more than I really want to. But
I don't know what the market is on Magic cards, but I'm going to guess at least 4 figures.
This is like a very expensive set, I've discovered, because like at least with like initial pricing. So like one of the cool things they did in this set is they have alternate artworks where, well, there's a couple of different ones that they did. One is they actually did these like borderless artworks of like the actual Magic the Gathering art that was official. But then they also got the rights to like some of the really old school Final Fantasy art, which is really cool, like scenes from games, promo images from like, you know, old like box art and guides and stuff like that. But they also did these like really simplistic minimalist views of like the characters, like of the main like ones from across all the series, where it's like the background is effectively just here's the number of the game that they're in. So like Cloud has like 7 behind him and stuff like that. But like they look really good, like for being very minimalist. Those cards are going for so much more money than I ever would have expected. Like a non-foil version is like $50 for some characters, I should say. Like not every one of them is like $50, but like it's ranged from like, you know, maybe $1 or $2 to like I've seen some as high as like 100.
See, and that is why I will not be playing card games.
Like it is a very, very weird thing to see, but it's, you know, just for someone like me who like I'm not super invested with like trying to like make money off the game. I just want to play card games with my friends at the end of the day. And this is honestly like a really good set for people too. Like it's good for casual players who like they're really big Final Fantasy fans and they're just like, man, I don't really know anything about Magic. Cool, just grab a deck, you'll figure it out as you go. Like if you kind of know how the characters play in the games, you kind of know what they're trying to do here. So it's a really
that definitely helps.
Yeah, it's a really good like setup with everything. I genuinely think that this is probably one of the cooler additions I think that they've done. Like I do love also that they did like this whole like partial set thing with some of the official artwork where it's like they're existing Magic the Gathering cards, but they Final Fantasy-ize them. So like there's a card called Strixhaven Stadium that's in the game normally, but they've made a version that's the Blitzball Stadium from 10. So it's still inherently that card, it's just it's now in the Final Fantasy universe, so to speak.
It's their own take on the idea. It's a good melding of worlds together.
Right. I would say honestly the only gripe that I would purposely put out there with it would be more just I would have preferred more pixel art style for some of the cases. Like there is like a couple cards that do have that, but they're like very few. So like, you know, I would have loved to see more of that actual pixel art. I would have killed for a Kefka pixel art laugh art card, but you know, I'll take what I can get.
It's kind of a missed opportunity to not have one like that.
I wonder if it was that maybe they wanted to put more effort
that image in
set.
Particular, especially.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's more like they put in more like artwork, like effort with this one because they didn't want to be sitting there and just be like, oh, we're gonna have all this, you know, recycled artwork and charge them X number of dollars for it. It's like they did want to put original artwork in there, and I do applaud the effort for that too. Like, I don't know if maybe we'll see like secret layers or something like that in the future with like maybe more of a pixel art style, like where, you know, you can buy a box of like 5 cards that like are all special edition in that style. If they do, cool, but I don't know what they're planning to do. But this overall I think has been one of, they've had 2 back-to-back sets now with Dragonstorm Tarkir that they just released in April, and now this has definitely been one of those like, yeah, you guys are really on the right track here. So I'm curious what that means for their next outside Magic Gathering set that they're gonna do is, which is supposed to be Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's it's like we talked about when we kind of, I can't remember which episode it was that we had this topic as well, but it's just like some of these combos are just a little like they're a little too distant.
Like, Magic has become such a weird situational game with like the IPs in particular, because in theory right now you can have all the following in a game of Magic at any point: Optimus Prime, Ezio Auditore, the Warhammer 40k universe, the Final Fantasy universe, soon to be Spider-Man, and the Fallout series. Like, this is just a tip of the iceberg. That's not counting like the secret layers that they've done in the past where they did Walking Dead cards and Street Fighter. These are actively like, you know, real Magic cards that they've done in tandem with stuff, which is cool inherently, but I am also a very, like, I try to be more of a purist when it comes to like making decks and stuff like that. Like, if I have to use certain cards, I will. But it's like, if I have a Fallout themed deck, I'm going to try to keep it as a Fallout themed deck as best I can. I don't want to like spend too much time mixing and matching, you know? Oh, and I forgot the Lord of the Rings. That's also in this like franchise now too. Because there was a whole Lord of the Rings set that they did, like, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Like, all this, it can be in one Magic game. Like, that is the wildest part about the whole thing, is like, there is only going to be more as this game proceeds forward. And I'm kind of excited to see, like, certain franchises, if they do get put in. Like, I'd kill for a Fire Emblem set personally, but I don't know if that would ever happen just because it's not a real popular franchise, and it's also Nintendo, and they're really not the type of people to really loan those out willy-nilly. So, but I do also worry that the game kind of like is going to drift away from like a more original story to focusing more on all this outside universes beyond stuff. And I really don't want to see them like put all the eggs in the basket on there and just completely abandon an original story that they were working on. So it's a catch-22 for me, where I want to, you know, really be supportive and be excited about, you know, seeing certain franchises in Magic Gathering down the road, but I also don't want them to completely abandon their originality of what they're trying to do, because they've definitely had a couple of jump the shark moments in the last couple of years in particular, ever since their last mainline story ended. So who knows how that's going to all end in the future, but I digress. But yeah, I'm just very excited with how this whole thing went. I didn't mean to go on like a 20-minute rant or whatever it was for Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering, but hey, here we are.
Just don't let it turn into the themed monopoly of card games. You know, how there's a monopoly for like every brand out there.
Yeah, or how Monopoly has like every single thing as a board game version under the sun.
Right.
So we'll start moving on to the actual topic that I was suggesting from last time. We're going to be talking about, because Switch 2 just came out recently, along with Mario Kart World, so I figured let's have a little bit of an easier topic today. And I thought, let's go over our top 5 Mario Kart tracks for us. So I gave some rules to you off the show, and then you kind of like help fine tune them a little bit. So basically this is kind of where we landed on. So I suggested I can only have an original version of a track be credited. So we're not going to count like a modern revamp of the tracks, like, from the newer games. So, like, if, say, DK Mountain is on a list, we're not using the updated version of it. We're using the Double Dash version, for example. Like, we're trying to keep the spirit of the track as a whole, and as much as it's great to see these tracks in newer games, like, revamped and updated, it came out on a certain game first, so we should give that the credit before anything else. Because, like, the additional version of it is nice, but it's less of the originality because that's not what it was originally designed as. So that's the first rule, is we're only going with the original tracks in this case. We also needed to have a significant amount of time with each Mario Kart that we're picking from. You made the suggestion of 20 hours. I've definitely crossed that threshold more than one occasion. You definitely have crossed that threshold on more than one occasion. So,
Oh yeah, way more than one time.
Yeah.
The only exception for me, I came a lot closer than I thought I would between last Thursday and now with World. I am at least 15 hours in it, so...
jeez. All right, you already well beaten me on that one.
Well, you don't have the game, so that makes it pretty hard.
Well, you right. So basically, we're doing everything pre-Super Mario, or Mario Kart. Is it Super Mario Kart World? Mario Kart World? Like, I forget what it's exactly called.
It is just Mario Kart World.
Okay. So everything pre-Mario Kart World is on the table if we have done it. I have not done every single Mario Kart game by any stretch of the imagination, but I did at least... Like, it's top 5, so it was pretty easy to just pick the ones that I put in the most hours on for me. So then, another rule that I think we had talked about initially, and I'm glad you actually settled on it too, the rule of only one use of recurring tracks. So some of these older games, we wanted to kind of avoid having this whole thing of, oh, we're going to pick, like, Mario Circuit 1, Mario Circuit 2, like anything like that. Not saying we were going to do that, but just to be clarified on it, one of that type of track. I think it's okay to some degree if, say, you had, like, Mario Circuit from the Double Dash era to Mario Circuit and, say, Mario Kart Wii. Those are different. But, like, the earlier games, if those were what you were looking for, then I would say just, like, if it's only Mario Kart Circuit 3, just do that one. So,
Well,
like,
see, I actually specifically interpreted that rule because I came up with that rule in that flipped around way where it's like, I am a Rainbow Road super fan, but this would be an incredibly boring list if all of my top 5 were Rainbow Roads,
right, and
So it kind of works for both.
yeah, and I also kind of still treated it a little bit with, like, different themes. If it was, like, the same name, so to speak, I would have only picked one specifically from a certain game. I think it's one of those things that it's like, these types of rules are very important to have, because it's like, there is always going to be some renamed usage, like, here and there, even if it's, like, off by a little bit. But, like, I think overall, it's definitely, like, better suited that it's like, you try to kind of mix it up for the sake of a list that's going to be interesting versus I picked Rainbow Road 5 times, so.
That's a snooze fest of a list.
And then this one, you sent this, but I don't entirely get what you were getting at on the 4th rule here. So,
Okay, well then, why don't I
Yeah.
go ahead and explain it for the audience. So the 4th rule, this is how I wrote it out in the message to you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a weird situation because in the Booster Course Pass for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that was the DLC, right?
Yeah.
It included a number of, in fact, I'm pretty sure every single track in some way was included in the mobile title, that being Mario Kart Tour.
Mm-hmm.
But the versions of those tracks in Tour versus what you get in the Booster Course Pass are very different. So, for example, in Mario Kart Tour, I want to make sure I have this one right, because there's some, like, the way they did it is like because the idea of it being a tour, it's a world tour, right?
Right.
So, like, one of their tracks was Paris Promenade, but it comes in three different variants in Tour: 1, 2, and 3. But in the Booster Course Pass, what you get as quote-unquote Tour Paris Promenade is there are 2 laps, and the first 2 laps are the same. But then when you get to the third lap, suddenly now when you cross the starting line, the game directs you through a different route that then has you play the rest of the track in reverse.
Okay.
So it's like very vastly different from what you get in Tour. Kind of similarly, there are a lot of other tracks in the game that are based on like real world cities, and they'll have it where like I did a whole series that I never completed. I really should at some point, but who knows if I will ever decide to get around to it. But like they had a track based on Sydney, like in Australia. And like the first lap will have you go through the Sydney Opera House, and then the second one will have you like go around it in a totally different route through a park, and then the third lap again will be a whole nother route. But those are based on, at least in some way, the 3 variants of the track being Sydney Sprint in Mario Kart Tour. Mm-hmm. So it's like that kind of breaks the first rule of like, well, you can only go with the original one, but I didn't really at least I felt like when it was time for me to make this list, because there are like I do enjoy some of those tracks a lot, but like, you know, am I really going to say that, oh, I like the really short single lap in Tour, or am I going to say I like, you know, when it's all 3 laps are just that combined into one proper Mario Kart style race, you know?
No, and I think that's fair. I like, for me, I still have actually not played the Mario Kart 8 DLC because I haven't gotten around to excuse me. I haven't actually gotten to play it yet because I just haven't gotten around to buying it yet.
See, because I had the expansion pass, I just got it for free included with that. Like I have that in the Animal Crossing DLC and the Splatoon 2 DLC just because it's like, okay, I paid the $50 for it. I mean, there it is. So I'm pretty sure that's all our rules though. So
yeah.
But we also had a few honorable mentions on this list in addition to our top 5, and I think we decided on we will start there. So give me your honorable mentions, the ones that are like you would love these to be on the list, but like they're just not quite there. They're just pretty close.
So I'm gonna start with ones. This is I talked with you about this, and I think it's okay in this case. I wanted to make an honorable mention specifically for Mute City, Big Blue, and Excite Bike Arena. The reason being is I love like those courses specifically in the Mario Kart series. I'm a very big F-Zero fanboy, and the Excite Bike Arena just was really fun. I really just wanted to mention those 3 because I love the idea of bringing those into Mario Kart, still keeping those original like facets of those tracks from their original games, like the energy thing for the Mute City and the Big Blue ones where like in F-Zero, it would be repairing your ship, but they gave it so that it's giving you coins when you go over those. In Mario Kart, I loved an Excite Bike Arena where it keeps the, like, really awkward, like, slanted ramps, that it's, like, just that, it's that hard angle from the NES era. I just love that it's, like, they keep the spirit of those alive in the Mario Kart series, and like, yeah, I just really genuinely like those just for that reason alone. So
I could not have guessed from episode 36 that you're a huge F-Zero fan.
Never once. But no, I'm very stoked about it. So I just put those all in as one honorable mention because they all are kind of in that same vein of like, you know, homages to other games while still keeping that spirit alive of them. So that one is my first honorable mention. The second one I was going to put out, Mushroom Bridge from Double Dash.
Ooh,
so
classic.
I just love that one specifically because there's some really cool shortcuts that you can do in Double Dash, but the one that I still think is hilarious is you can actually drive on the top of the bridge railings in like the like over by the start and finish line, excuse me. And I just really like the whole concept of it. It's got some really good, like, I genuinely like it more than Mushroom City, which I think is what people prefer overall. but I just think Mushroom Bridge has a lot more cool stuff going while keeping it in this like really chaotic, busy traffic setting that you have to kind of bob and weave around traffic and all this other stuff that's going on. Like, and it's a short race too by comparison. So like you're not going to worry about getting lost, you're not going to worry about spending too much time on it. It's that right amount of time to be on that specifically. So that's my second honorable mention. And the third one I wanted to pick was Mario Circuit for the Wii. And the reason I prefer that one specifically is, to me, that's like the pinnacle Mario Circuit of all the games that they have. Like, it does everything that you want in like kind of a generic, circuit style race, but it still has a lot of this personality in the Mario universe. Like, there's a lot to like about it. Like the Chain Chomp, I think is a good addition. Weirdly enough, I like how, again, the twists and turns on that I think are really good for that style of track, and it doesn't feel forced. Like, you know what you're getting into with the circuit race most of the time, but like it's straightforward but still challenging overall for me. So that's my third honorable mention I wanted to bring up.
All right. Well, that's a good list. I do like me some Mushroom Bridge too. And there's nothing like, I think some people are really like, I just want like, ridiculous tracks that go like twist and turn, and sometimes it's just nice to have like a pretty simple one. And I think Mushroom Bridge really fits that bill. Of course, I think that was one of the best things with Mario Kart 8 was all those crossovers. The only one that I'm like, that's an interesting choice is Mario Circuit from Wii. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad track. It's just not one that I would think of as like, it's not in my upper pantheon. But like, if I'm playing Mario Kart Wii, I would be okay with picking it in my like track choices.
I didn't mention this too, but I do like the fact also that like every time that you finish the circuit, you go back to that place. So it has kind of this like, home base feeling like after you finish a tour.
True. Whether it's in versus mode or in the Grand Prix, you do always end up back celebrating at Mario Circuit. And I think even in battle mode too, like if your team wins, that's where the victory takes place.
I think so, yeah.
So for my honorable mentions, I did pretty good here overall on the list of having like tracks from all different games. Again, the only exception is going to be technically with 8 because I did put a Booster Course Pass track in the list. But otherwise, I think the only games that just didn't get a shout out here were the original SNES game and Mario Kart 64. Although I don't feel as bad about the latter. Mario Kart 64, not very good.
Boy,
but I digress.
Disappointed in my list.
Last time we talked, you didn't sound like you were a big Mario Kart 64 fan. I will give the tracks in that game. They are good tracks, but just I have ones that I prefer over it.
Well, I was going to say, like, I wouldn't go as far as saying, like, I'm a Mario Kart 64, like, fanboy. Like, I give it the credit it deserves, I think is the better way to phrase it. Because, like, that is kind of the blueprint to modern Mario Kart overall. Like, yes, it has its, quirks, plus, 20 years later. So, I think, yes, it is not, like, the greatest by comparison, but I can respect it for what it is and what it has essentially brought into the entirety of the franchise. I think that's all I was going to really say.
That's fair. Maybe the more reasonable thing for me to say is just that it has aged horrifically.
That I will not argue.
Honorable mentions. First one I have to give to Double Dash. You went with a very simple Double Dash track. I'm going with a very complex one in Wario Coliseum.
Yeah. I do love me the Wario Coliseum one.
It's a really good one. Anytime a track does something different in terms of like, we have to have more laps or fewer laps, it automatically in my brain sticks out. Now that's not always for a good thing. Like Baby Park has way more laps, and it's like that track is a very polarizing track. I like it fine. I don't love it.
I actually was fighting on Baby Park for a while on my list.
Yeah, I go very back and forth with it. Sometimes it's fine. So other times it's just like, oh my god, I hate this amount of chaos. But Wario Coliseum, it's really long, but you feel like you've accomplished a lot in a single lap. I like the aesthetic. I don't know what it is like about it being like, like I feel like there's a specific term for the type of like what it is other than just calling it an obstacle course, I suppose. But I just like all the little, like every little section feels like its own distinct challenge, and it sticks
It's kind
out
of like a
for that
gauntlet
reason.
in a way, almost.
Yes, that's a good word for it. It's a very gauntlet like track. All these ramps. If you have a mushroom, you can do a shortcut through the middle of like this ring. All these twists and turns, like these grates. Like yes, I think gauntlet. I like that word for it.
I definitely had Wario Coliseum on my list when I was going through the Double Dash tracks because like I kind of just went through all the games that I spent a lot of time on and just started like really cherry picking things. It was actually kind of hard to pick the Double Dash course that I loved the most, but we'll get to that later.
Well, as a Double Dash super fan, I can see where you might struggle there.
That is definitely the game I put in the most hours on for Mario Kart. So
Well, makes sense. It is your childhood one too. The next track I wanted to shout out. I wanted to give a little love to Mario Kart Super Circuit. I went with Sky Garden in that one.
yeah,
I don't know necessarily what it is about that track, but like something about it just feels magical. And, the very first version I played of it was in my first Mario Kart, that being Mario Kart DS. So when I think of Sky Garden, that's the version that I think of, but not too terribly long later, I get a copy of Super Circuit and I play it in there, and it's still just as good. It's a little bit different in some ways. The Booster Course Pass version is comparatively an abomination. I do not think that version is nearly as good, unfortunately. It's just a fun track. It's got some nice turns. I like the little shortcut where you get to just do a single hop for an item box. There's also like little shortcuts that are like some islands, like little cloud islands that you get to hop over. I think those are neat. And of course, you gotta give it up for the music. The music for that track is phenomenal.
it really is. Like I don't have a Super Circuit track weirdly on my top 5, but like that is definitely one of my top 3 for that game though. Like Sky Garden has like an aesthetic that just feels like for as chaotic as a game that Mario Kart is, it's weirdly a peaceful course by comparison just cuz it's like oh, it's so nice, everything the clouds look good and it's just like as people are getting like absolutely like smashed by like their 14th green shell on lap 2 like I love just the contradiction of it all where it's like this really peaceful looking course with the most chaotic gameplay imaginable.
It is a little bit of a walking contradiction in that sense.
I know, but I love it for that reason.
The last honorable mention I wanted to give, I know, like I said, I haven't quite met the 20 hours, but I mean, I gotta be really, really close because the Switch 2 shows 15 or more hours, so it's like I have to be getting closer to 20 than not. I had to put one world track in the honorable mentions, and I'm going to give it to the new Peach Stadium track. I don't know what it is, but in recent Mario Kart history, of all the characters to be like eating really good with the track, so to speak, it's Princess Peach. Because in the Booster Course Pass, one of the tracks that stuck out to me as like a massive improvement was its remake of Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS. That was always a track that I thought was like kind of boring and nothing. And then I played it in that, and they made a change with it that I thought was like, oh my god, I like this track now. Because they did the same kind of thing where they add a new route. They have like a reverse route where, after you turn past the fountain, there's like a gap in the hedges. So instead of going right and going through the garden, you go left through the hedge, and then go back to the castle, and then go reverse through the garden. So like I thought that was a really cool change. Peach Beach reappears in World, and I think that is much improved from the Double Dash and Wii versions. But Peach Stadium is the new track, and again, really good. Song, phenomenal. Like, I mean, it is crazy how much just having a good song automatically just improves any stage, in this case track, in a game. A lot of really satisfying turns. It's not super duper long. it kind of gives me like, it feels like the closest to something that I would have experienced in Mario Kart 8. Like, you could have told me it came from that game, because it has some areas that it's like, if this were an anti-gravity, it would also make sense, but like, they don't. It's just not a thing in that game. Yeah, just overall, like, of the new tracks, that was one of the ones that impressed me the most. So it has to get an honorable mention. If I had more time with it, and I think if I've like, it's just one that I keep coming back to. And ultimately, if I keep finding myself in Versus Race, picking that track over and over and over and over again, usually a pretty good indication that I like it a lot.
I think something that I'm always impressed by is like Peach has really been eating with a lot of her courses. Like ever since 64, it just seems to get better and better and better with her.
She's I'll give her kind of a sleeper character, It didn't quite hit for me as early as that, like you just mentioned, but I mean,
well, I count like Royal Raceway as her one, and
yeah,
I know that's like a very iconic track from that game specifically, but like Peach Beach I genuinely liked. Peach Garden I think is another one, and it seems like they really like, it's almost they've been expanding her character through the different courses in a way. Like her character becomes like, oh, I'm more of this real prim and proper, and you kind of see like what it is like, in a day of the royalty, to like she's now actually becoming more of an adventurous spirit, kind of more akin to like the Super Mario Brothers movie that just came out a while ago.
she's a person, not a trope, right?
And I think that's a very like subtle way that maybe it wasn't done intentionally, but I think it has been cool to see her character kind of expanded through courses almost in a way.
Yeah, actually, that's another good thing about the track, since now that I think about it, is like, yes, it does kind of incorporate some of those like traditional, when you think of Princess Peach kind of stuff. It has the castle. There's definitely a good amount of pink in the course, but like, it's also just still like, it's a nice racetrack regardless. It isn't like, man, what would be a good comparison point? Because I mean, I guess in a sense you could look at it then as like a new Royal Raceway, because Royal Raceway kind of similarly, like, it incorporates the things that like make you envision like, okay, there's the crown that makes you think of Peach, and there's her castle again. But it's not like, it's not the girly track, quote unquote. Again, it's not tropey in that kind of way.
Kind of almost like getting tomboyish. Like almost akin to Daisy, but not quite treading fully on her territory.
I could see that, yeah. I don't know. Either way, Peach Stadium, I really good new track. Deeply, deeply enjoy it. But now we need to go down the lists. The top 5 tracks for each of us.
I literally actually got all 5 of mine like up in front of me right now off the Super Mario wiki right now, just so I at least have them kind of in order. So it's like, so I'm just going left to right is my 5 to 1 basically. So starting off, I'm going to say my number 5 course is Calamari Desert from N64. So
one of my favorites from that game. I don't love the game, but it's a good track.
Well, so this is the thing that I love the fact that it keeps getting brought back to, because it's been back in 64. It started in 64, it's been back in 7, it's now back in 8 Deluxe. So Calamari Desert had a very interesting thing that I didn't see ever in a racing game up until playing this for the first time, which was stopping. As weird as this sounds, I think it's an interesting choice and a really cool course design and all this stuff. But the thing that got me the first time that's like, oh, this is a really cool track, is I have to stop for a train potentially. Or I have to run the risk of trying to jump the train and screwing myself over down the road if I don't get there fast enough. That was really cool for me the first time that I played it, and it's stuck with me ever since. I don't know, there's something about, like, you're playing this risky game of, like, do I have enough time to cross the track and actually get, like, a bigger lead on other people? Or am I going to severely regret this decision because I misjudged how fast that train's going? Like, that is something that I don't feel like a lot of courses in general to this day do. And they've been doing that since N64. So I really want to see more of that in a way. Like, if it's possible to incorporate it. I know it can kind of slow down the gameplay, but, like, it's a really cool concept to throw that in there, where it's like you have to be strategic on when to go and when to start and stop and all that stuff. And along with it, I love the aesthetic. I love the whole desert idea with it having so much personality for such a simplistic idea of just, oh, it's desert with a train in it. But like it really is alive for a desert course, which I shouldn't be surprised by Nintendo being able to make anything pop lively. And then on top of that too, it's just I love the music. The music is phenomenal on that course too. Like it's very like, how do I word it right? It's very almost like westernish, but it's still like lively. Like I don't know how to better phrase it than that.
It's not like stereotypical Western necessarily,
Right.
but it's kind of like it's almost more, which is appropriate for because there's a lot of deserts like this here in the United States. It's very southwesty, if anything, more than it's necessarily like desert, quote unquote.
Right.
And you know, I agree. Of course, I mean the train is the iconic thing about that track. I think it's interesting in that it almost makes like a second starting line for the track in a sense, because like you said, if you can get past the train, great. If you don't, well, now suddenly you've re-bunched up all the racers, so it ends up being a little bit of an equalizer in that sense. You know?
Very. And like if you're in a race, like say if you're in the back half of the pack, but like you're still kind of close enough, you could effectively get a surprising like start in a way, because it's like if you are coming up as the train is leaving and all those other cars are still like trying to reaccelerate, you have the momentum now. You just blow right by them. Like it gives a really interesting strategic angle if like done properly. But I don't know. That definitely is like the best N64 course, at least from my take on it. And yeah, I just really love that one.
It's a really, really good track. I will give it credit for that. And I mean, how could we go talking about this track without mentioning that even in the original version, you can just drive off course and drive on the tracks too. You can drive straight into the tunnel if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny. And in another reason why Mario Kart 7 not the best one, they do add like there are a couple of flight ramps. Like there's a ramp that like if you have a mushroom you can jump onto that's right before where the train would go across, which kind of defeats the purpose of the train a little bit. But you also can't drive on the tracks. Worst version by far. But then the Booster Course Pass version, they specifically in like the first lap is a normal lap. And then the second lap, suddenly where you would stop for the train, just having materialized into existence is this huge ramp with a left turn that forces you onto the tracks. And so the second lap plays out, like it starts normal, you go on that ramp, and then you're driving on the tracks, and then suddenly the start of the third lap is within the tunnel. So you play the rest of it going through the tracks up until it eventually hits the second crossing area and then finish out the lap there. It is hilarious. Again, that version's great, but you wouldn't have it if they didn't originally have all that in the N64 version. So kudos to the N64 version for being what it was and then later on inspiring these new ways of navigating the track as well.
Oh, for sure.
Number 5 for me, I have to give it to my first game, Mario Kart DS. I'm giving it to Airship Fortress.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's hard to remember this era almost because it just seems like for the last 15 or so years since Super Mario 3D Land came out that, or I guess you could even argue a little bit earlier with that technically with New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but even more so by the time with 3D Land. But there was a time where it seemed like Super Mario Bros. 3 was special with all this distinct stuff about it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see airships reappear. You never saw the Super Leaf reappear. With the rare exception of this track. As a kid, I had never played Super Mario Bros. 3 until I was like probably 10 years old. So I had played this before I'd, experienced Super Mario Bros. 3. But it's like I'd still heard of it. I'd still known of it and that it had these airship levels in it.
So it was really interesting seeing, like, in this era where it's like they just didn't, even though it was, again, a super iconic game, well beloved, it just almost seemed like they didn't really acknowledge Super Mario Brothers 3. But then this track comes out, and it isn't necessarily an homage to that game because it has a lot of aspects that aren't necessarily in it, but like, you go on the ship. There's the bonsai bills in it, right? Now those didn't exist till Super Mario World. They're meant to clearly be a stand-in for the bullet bills that like you see shoot out of the cannons in Mario 3. You have the rocky wrenches all in that area when you're driving on the like the main deck of the ship, and then you go down in that little like twisty turn and go past these like giant fire bars. Like, it's really cool. Up until finally you yourself get shot out of a cannon, and that like final twisty bit down the tower to back to the starting line. It's just a really fun track. Like, it's neat to see what it means in the greater context of like the Mario series, and it's just like, by virtue of it being the first 3D handheld Mario Kart and the first handheld Mario Kart by the main team, it's going to end up being a little bit more simplistic, but like they still went all out with it, with like what they could with that track, and I just enjoy it. It's a nice track.
I agree. I think that's a very good course for how it's made, and it's very interesting with the airships firing at you when you're driving and you're having to try to navigate around that, in addition to items getting thrown at you and all that stuff. And I do love the getting shot out toward the tower and then basically spiral staircasing down it. Like, I think Airship Fortress is definitely up there. It was on my list when I was picking a DS course, so I definitely think that it's definitely like one of the top 2 courses, I feel like, personally, but that's aside the point.
Music as well for that. Again, not very much like the Mario 3 song. Like, I think if it had been an original track today, they would have just done a remix of the airship music.
Yeah.
But instead for this, they did something totally original that like gets this like battle idea across. Almost like there isn't another airship that it's fighting against, is the funny thing. Like, the bonsai bills in that starting area that, like you said, you have to drive past are just like shooting into like a hole in this little stone area. So it's like, but it feels like there's a battle. Like, the song makes it feel like, yeah, you're in this like sort of pirate airship battle. Like, it's a really cool track. Mm-hmm. And they play with it even more because it did come back finally for the first time in 20 years. I'm pretty sure it might have been in tour, but for sure, like in a console game, it's finally back in Mario Kart World, and they did a phenomenal job with it there too. I think the original, like the nostalgia I have for the original, makes me like it maybe a little bit better, but either way, really good track.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Number 4.
So my 4th one, and I don't know if this is necessarily controversial that I have a Mario Kart 8 course so low on my top 5, but my top Mario Kart 8 track is Sunshine Airport. So
all right,
it's weird that this is like one that I feel like is the best one personally. I just genuinely love the vibe of the whole thing, because it's like you're in this tropical setting, but with it being in an airport, it matches the chaotic energy of like a Mario Kart race to me. Because like, figure you're in an airport normally, you're trying to get to your flight and all this other stuff, and like I love the fact that like you can ride on like the little like conveyor belt like sidewalks that they have in the track, and getting onto like the tarmac and kind of driving through the airport itself, and then eventually taking off and flying yourself. I think it's a really cool just concept for being like this really brisk way of basically showing this is what an airport normally is. But like, I genuinely just enjoy like it from start to finish every time. Like, I'm never upset that I have this course, It's kind of simple overall, like by comparison of the rest of the stuff on this list, but like I just genuinely love the vibe of it, of the chaotic nature of the airport, as well as like kind of the freedom of when you eventually do get to take off and fly. And then, stuff like the music really just matches that whole interaction, I feel like I don't have a huge amount to say on it specifically. I just really enjoy this course. Like, out of anything in Mario Kart 8 somehow, this is the one that like is like my top spot.
It's a good track, but for me, Sunshine Airport is Mario Kart 8's Coconut Mall. And I mean that in the nicest and the not nicest ways, because it's I think on an objective standpoint, it's a really good track. I agree. I think it does a very good job of like making you feel like you're in an airport. You see the baggage claim. You get to drive on the plane wings. You get to fly up, like in that same kind of arc that you would see with a plane. When you go like through that turn and go down back into the airport, you can have an airplane fly right above you. Like, and it definitely gets that airport feeling just like through virtue of seeing it. And you're right, the chaos definitely makes you think like, you get that feeling of like when you're at the airport and it's like, oh man, I gotta go through this and that and the other thing, and it's a little stressful. Mm-hmm. The reason I say it's like Coconut Mall for me, though, I am a well-known, okay, I shouldn't say well-known because it's not like I'm some internet celebrity here, but
well-known by our whole 4 people.
Among the people that I would talk to if I were to like ever talk about Mario Kart tracks like this, I do not like Coconut Mall. And it's not because it's necessarily a bad track. It's because, like, in online and, like, when you play with people, it's one of the first ones everyone wants all the time. So it's oversaturated for me. It's the same thing for Sunshine Airport. I've played Sunshine Airport so many times that, like, it just doesn't impress me anymore. Like, I can acknowledge in that same way with Coconut Mall, very fun tracks. They have very good ideas. They make you feel like you're in the place that you're at. But like when you've just experienced it so many times over and over and over and over and over again, and you don't necessarily immediately have that same love that other people have for it, it loses its luster. So I have to appreciate it for what it is, even if I can't say I personally adore the track.
And that's fair. I mean, that's the whole reason we did this, is just to compare notes effectively, because like, you're not going to have the same attachment all the time with every single course. It's like, I definitely have courses that anytime I see it get picked, I just am rolling my eyes. Like, for me, one of the ones I don't like the most is like Grumble Volcano. And I just hate it in the fact of like watching the course. Like, it's not that the course is like changing in front of you. It's that it does it so slow. So like, you can really screw yourself over just because, oh, you didn't read when the thing is going to start sinking into the ground, and now I can't get up, so now I have to lose a lot of time because, like, it's somehow faster to drive in the lava when that happens. It's just, that's not a fun thing for me. Like, I definitely get the gripe, though, of the airport. I can definitely see it.
I would tend to agree. I think Grumble Volcano, too, is a bit of an overrated track, which is weird because I've also, like, in some ways, it's also a little bit of a polarizing track. It's in either you love it or you hate it kind of track. And
oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's kind of how I feel for Sunshine Airport. And if anything, I also feel it's a little bit of an appropriate segue to my number 4, which is my Booster Course Pass track. That is Berlin Byways. There are, as well, a lot of people who really love this track. A lot of people who are really like, I don't get the hype. I'm one of the people who love it. And you know, the thing for me with that track, because I remember like seeing a post somewhere on the internet where someone was specifically like that, where it's like, I just don't like, what is it about this track that people like so much? And the conclusion that I came to with it is one of the things I really like in a Mario Kart track, if it isn't just from the aesthetic or just from like the music really bumping it up, it's having the opportunity to do a lot of really satisfying actions in a row. And I get that in Berlin Byways because, for one thing, by virtue of it being a city track, it automatically has like, it's one of the tracks where you've got like cars driving along it, the cars that, you know, will spin you out, right, if you crash into them. So already you have to do all that bobbing and weaving. And I think the track has a lot of satisfying turns. Like, one of my favorite things to do in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was get to, because if you turned off smart steering, which who didn't turn off smart steering, you can get up to a third level of drift boost. So, like, if I could get up to the pink level of the drift boost, I would try to go for that every time as much as I can. So, and that's something you can do a lot in Berlin Byways. So, because it has a lot of like these really like, they're like turns that are like most of a circle, but you have to do that while you're still going in between the traffic. And I find that to be very, very satisfying. You can get up to a really good speed in that track. And because it's one of these booster course pass tracks, each lap has a very different route from each other. And I found that to be one of the most like interesting aspects of that DLC that I think people just didn't necessarily rate properly, was just like, is it kind of weird having these like these like red arrows just pop up in the middle of the air that are like very video gamey, floating in air? Sure, but it doesn't change the fact that I think it ends up like you get a satisfying layout as a result. So I have to give my credit to that, and I cannot not talk about, or I don't know, I cannot go talking about this track, if I could formulate my sentence into something that makes sense, without discussing, again, the music. It is... Have you ever heard this song before? Because it is excellent.
No, I actually haven't. This is one of the few
Oh my
courses,
God.
like, this is... I don't think I've played anything from, like, Mario Kart Tour or any of those types of Mario Kart.
Like, even the tour version is, like, of that song is pretty good, but the 8 Deluxe version is so much better. It is an electronic rave song with orchestra in it, too. I'm sure there are other songs that have existed before that, like, do that combination, but, like, to me, it's just so, like, catchy going between, like, the bits where it's, like, really, you know, again, in that very electronic hyping you up, and then very smooth, like, classical violin bits. I can't get enough of it.
I don't have much I can really add to everything you just said, so... Like,
Are you overwhelmed with that description?
no, it's not like that. It's just
You just haven't experienced it.
yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm sure, like, since my experience with, like, the Mario Karts are more kind of basically from 8 and past that, like, before that, like, the newer stuff is still, like, I have to yet to experience it yet, like, including even, like, the deluxe, like, booster, or what is it called?
The Booster Course Pass
Thank
was
you.
the formal title for it.
Yeah, like, I still have to buy that yet, which I need to really finally just actually go buy that at some point. It's $25. It's not like it's expensive.
You're doubling the amount of the most important content in the game. And actually, I mean, if you play online, you don't even need to buy it, because the tracks will just pop up in the online rotation whether or not you own the DLC.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just more of, like, I don't have, like, you know, any reason to necessarily have to worry about being online. I'd rather just, like, have it in my possession just so that it's like, okay, I have it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Okay. So, my third place is, I don't know if it's just a very popular pick from the DS game, but it's Waluigi Pinball. I can't not pick Waluigi Pinball for a multitude of reasons. I love the concept of it being just a giant pinball machine course. I love that very early into the race you get launched like you're a ball from the, like, stop, or from the little launcher thing.
The plunger.
Yeah, the plunger, thank you. I know there was a name for it, but my brain is just, I haven't I don't know pinball terminology. The only thing pinball related that I know is that in Nashville you have to be 18 or older to play pinball.
That's weird.
I know, it's, well, apparently pinball was at one point, like, considered gambling, so that was why the rule was put into place. But, like, I don't think they've ever changed it on the books yet, so I don't really know what the deal is on that front, but just, I love the concept of it as a whole. I love, like, that you can actually bounce off of the little bumpers as well, too. And on top of it, the music is just so good. I would put that on, like, repeat, like, as a kid when I was playing it. It's like, da, 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 da. Like, it's just, it's such a good like overall chaotic track. I'm gonna use chaotic a lot with my picks. I'm sorry in advance, but it's such a good track between like, everything that's going on with like the bright lights and all the stuff going on, the giant pinballs that you have to avoid. And then I love the little nuances of the course itself that like I don't feel like enough people talk about with it. There's a unique roulette sound to the item boxes on there. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
Oh, that was the first thing I noticed about that track when I played it, other than like the intro is different. Like they had a, it's weird because it's almost more like a roulette gambling style intro where it's like this organ music. And then, yeah, same thing with the item effects, is it's that kind of idea.
Right.
And I agree. Huge piece of personality, that track.
Like, it just does all this stuff really well for what it is. Like, they really just, like, there was a lot of effort put into this course. And it's a weird thing to say, but, like, I'm kind of glad Waluigi is the one tied to this, of all people, like, from the games. Because it's like, Waluigi doesn't really have a thing that makes him stick out, besides that he plays tennis. And I know Nintendo has been kind of trying to give him more personality because they refuse to let him have his own game. But, like, they really did right by giving one of the lesser represented characters probably one of the most iconic tracks in all of Mario Kart. And, like, just as an overview, Waluigi just has a lot of good tracks. Like, I don't know what it is that made him get all these really good ones. Like, when I was trying to pick my GameCube rep for my list, Waluigi Stadium was on that list up until like the very end. And it was one of those like things that I just love because it was like that was a real chaotic stage too. Like, they really do such a good job with all of Waluigi's courses that I'm glad Waluigi Pinball is like his quote unquote. But like, I do just love all these like little nuances that the course just has to offer. Like, when you exit the pinball table in the game, it does the ball lost sound from a pinball machine, and I'm like, that's great. Those little things really add up to like make it very immersive, and it's just like I will play this 70 more times before the day is out.
It is a phenomenal track. I do deeply enjoy it. I think it's got this interesting layout. Again, you could do like very satisfying actions with it, but it's a little bit harder too because Mario Kart DS still uses the, like in Mario Kart Wii, I believe it's Wii, they finally like standardized the drifting system to be like whichever level you get of your drift depends on how long you hold the drift, whereas in DS, it's still used like, how many times you rock the D-pad back and forth. So that's how you get like the snaking going on in that game. So like going back to the DS version, it's a little bit different, but like the layout almost like works better with the more modern drift controls. About the only critique I have of the track, like I co-signed pretty much everything you said, but there's a video I was watching where someone was like talking about the tracks like this, and he's like, I don't entirely get the hype for Waluigi Pinball, because I was like, there's really not that, like, if you really think about it, it doesn't really do much with the pinball idea. Like, you only really spend a very little amount of time on the table.
Well, okay.
Most of it, and he's like, well, you could argue, the area you're in for most of it is like the ramps, but then you start and you're in the ramp. Literally what you see when you first come out of it is a ball rolling on an actual like pinball ramp coming off of it.
I was gonna say,
still, that doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the track though.
Well, so here's the thing: is it's like they had to incorporate some of this stuff, and like if you factor in what a regular pinball machine looks like, you get shot up down the plunger and then up into like the actual things. The pinball, when you launch it, is always in that upper part of the like table, and it depends on the pinball machine, but sometimes it's like it just kind of does the little outside of like the actual like first level of it, you know what I mean, kind of like that curvage that when you hit it sometimes it kind of is doing loops all the way around the table. I don't know how to better explain it than that, but some of them do actually have it launch off of the metal railings and stuff that they have. And I think that was what they were trying to go for, was to try to incorporate that into the course. So I get the point that they're trying to make, but it's like, it still works for what it is, because those quote unquote ramps after you get out of the initial plunger like launch area are supposed to be like, here's the pinball coming down on this metal railing that's like above the rest of the table. So
Right.
I think it's one of those things that it's like, that's a severe nitpick for like what it is, but it's like Nintendo is trying to incorporate every common facet of a pinball machine, and that was the best way that they could do it, which, if you really boil it down, if like, I feel like it'd look very different if we saw it like from the perspective of a pinball machine, then it would make more sense. But I get his gripe about it, but like, yeah, it's definitely one of those courses that, like, to put it mildly, is phenomenal. Like, it's a fun time, it's a great course from start to finish. I will never not play Waluigi Pinball if it's brought up. I'm like, that is a course that will be like, yes, get it.
It is a classic track. I cannot disagree.
And to answer your earlier question, it was Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart Tour that it's been on. It has never been on Mario Kart Wii.
No, I was saying the drifting system, like the new system started in Wii.
Gotcha.
But also, I should mention, since we're making corrections here, Airship
boy.
Fortress was also in Mario Kart 7. So,
yeah. 7
totally forgot it was in that game.
To be fair, I feel like a lot of us forgot 7 existed.
Well, and it's funny we should be talking about Mario Kart 7 because as much as last time I ragged on that game, and now today we've already ragged on it a little bit for being very forgettable, my number 3 is actually a track from Mario Kart 7. And that track, I went with Woohoo Loop.
Ooh, yeah.
And honestly, by and large, it's for a lot of those same reasons as those honorable mentions you had from 8. It's the first ever crossover track in Mario Kart. I mean, technically, the Miis are already in with Mario Kart Wii, but then they're brought back for 7. They're not in World, which makes me sad, but I digress. It's just like a fun track, and it was the first track to introduce the sections idea instead of having 3 laps. You drive through 2 checkpoints along the way, and those are your quote-unquote laps. Like one, it's Woohoo Loop. One loop around the island, that is your whole race. And again, for as much as like I think Mario Kart 7 really dropped the ball in some like weird ways, I have to give it credit for establishing some ideas that like really did change the identity of Mario Kart. Having the glider, huge change to the identity of Mario Kart, so much that it's still there today. Even if they don't use gliders, instead your kart like sprouts wings when you glide, they still kept that around. There are still tracks today in Mario Kart World where it is a loop, like in Woohoo Loop, where you go through sections, right? Mm. And if anything, that kind of, I think, paved the way for thinking about, like, well, does every track need to be 3 laps, of the same kind? And that's how you get, like, in the Booster Course Pass and in World, where it's, like, different, like, a track layout can have multiple different laps for it. And, of course, I just love that, like, it's Woohoo Island. It's a totally different thing that you would never see in Mario because that's just not what it is. And it has many iconic locations. You drive across the giant red bridge. There's I guess it's not technically a shortcut, but like there's a little alternate path, or like you can go through the ruins that you could fly through in Wii Sports Resort. There's another route, like when you get toward the end, you can either keep driving along the road, like driving along, or well, I guess that's technically not at the cliff anymore, or you can go out of your way to go drive by the lighthouse, and there's a glider ramp there, so you can fly all the way to the end. It's a straight shot when you get out there, but like the risk is taking that total like turn off the beaten path, and it's a satisfying track, kind of like Berlin Byways. You can make a lot of satisfying turns in it. So again, for as much as I rag on Mario Kart 7, in the same way actually that I rag on Mario Kart 64, it's not like it has all terrible tracks.
Yeah, there's definitely those moments where you just kind of sit there and you really appreciate. Like, I love that they put so much effort into these video game courses. Like, I almost put Hyrule Circuit on for a similar reason. Like, that's an original course, I know. But, like, that one, the Animal Crossing one, Woohoo Loop, the ones I had mentioned earlier with the F-Zero and the Excite Bike, they really care about what they're putting into those tracks, whether it's completely new or if it's, something it's based already off of it. They find ways to really incorporate and make it more intricate, I feel like. So I can't really fault them in any capacity whatsoever.
A lesser developer, like with those tracks, man, maybe this is a little pretentious, but they went through the effort of they don't have coins in any of those crossover tracks, except for Woohoo Loop, but that was before they established the idea, so I'll let them slide on it. But it's Hyrule Circuit, you've got rupees. Animal Crossing, you've got bells. In F-Zero, there are no coins at all. You just go over the energy panels. In the Booster Course Pass, they added a Yoshi's Island track, which is still, Yoshi's Island is still Mario, right? But in Yoshi's Island, the coins, they don't have that line on them. Instead, they have Yoshi's head, and they made new coins with Yoshi's head on it just for that track.
See, that's actually really cool. I like that.
Yeah, the starting music for Yoshi's Island is different. They use, when you start, a level in Yoshi's Island, it goes that's the pre-little song for that track. And just like Animal Crossing and F-Zero and Zelda, it has its own "You've completed the race" song. So, all those little details that really, tie the bow on the whole thing, they make a difference. And Woohoo Loop, they didn't quite go that far because I don't think they, kind of owing to the game's rush development, they probably didn't have time to think about that. But, you could tell it was, the seed of the idea of doing things like that was planted.
All right. So that's our number 3s. We're on to number 2, the penultimate picks. And as weird as this is going to sound, my favorite Mario Kart game has my second favorite track of all time. So I am a very big Double Dash fan, and I will be until I die. But for me, I love Double Dash. To kind of preface this, I think Double Dash overall has just a very amazing course set list that they have. In general, any of these could have been really good. My top one for it specifically is DK Mountain. The biggest things that I love about DK Mountain, though, is just how it starts and how it ends each lap. So, the starting, line is literally at the base of the mountain, and then you're literally driving up, trying to get around and trying to launch yourself out of a cannon that takes you to the very, very top of the mountain, and then you have to slalom your way down, basically, all the way across, along with having boulders that are chasing after you. And then as you get into the jungle area again, it has these really sweet twists and turns that really test your good, drifting capabilities. And then the bridge at the very end, which I have seen on more than one occasion make or break a race. And I just love, every time that course is up, it's such a suspenseful time. Because it's you could be in first place by the time you hit the bridge. You could end up in 8th because you just got absolutely knocked out by a blue shell that fell off the bridge, then hit by a red shell, and it just your entire momentum just absolutely gone in an instant because everybody and their mother was throwing things at you. It's aesthetically pleasing. The music, we could talk about all of these. I'm sure it's going to equate to the same thing. The music just kicks ass every single time I listen to that one. Just that jungle beat to it is such a good bop that I'm always dancing in my seat while I'm driving the race with it. It's so good. It's a lot of good for a Mario Kart track that is challenging but fun. And I'm so glad that they brought it back in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe too. I cannot wait to eventually play that with that. So yeah, that's my number 2 pick for sure.
I think it's a very sleeper track for me, I don't think of DK Mountain in that same kind of pantheon, but when I think of the idea of playing it, I always think of myself going, yeah, I could play DK Mountain. I wouldn't mind doing that. And I have a good time when I'm playing it. But you're right. You're in that group of for some people, it definitely sits on this different pantheon of tracks for others. And it's a good track. I do enjoy it. I think like it's kind of funny looking at like the angry volcano when you're like shooting up to it, having that giant like, because like when you look at the track, when you look at the map, it's like there's this huge straight line. What's up with that? And for the first time, then you see the cannon. It's like, oh, that realization that it's just like a huge shot up the cannon is really cool. Like, yeah, it's just a nice, like, I think chaotic is a great way in general to describe Double Dash because of like how loose its drifting is, the way that items just kind of fly all over the place, and then the specials and DK Mountain definitely like it's a track that exemplifies all those ideas. Kind of like a way more complex like Baby Park. Like Baby Park was meant to show how chaotic the items are, but you still experience that even in DK Mountain still. So I agree. Good track. Nice to see some Donkey Kong representation too.
And you actually brought up a good point that I didn't even mention is like because of how Double Dash is with like the special items, that course gets so much more chaotic for that reason alone. Between like you get hit by like the big Bowser shells or like the Bob-ombs or, you know, triple shells that are getting flying across while you're trying to just
the giant banana.
The giant banana. The giant banana is absolutely king in that course, and I will fight anyone who says that's a useless item. It's not. It's a really good item.
It's appropriate since it's the Donkey Kong track.
Well, right, and because like the actual track itself is actually more skinnier, I feel like, than most other courses. It's like it benefits from that because that's very hard. It's like either you're gonna have to try to weasel your way around it, or you're just taking the banana and you have to hope for the best that you're not gonna lose that much momentum. But like, no, it's such a well-designed and thought-out course that, like, it's funny you mentioned that, because I would have easily put it, like, even if we weren't doing, like, a top 5, this is, like, a top 5 course in that game, just in general. Like, top 3, easy. But I feel, for me, it's a number 1 to pick. Like, Double Dash has so many good courses that I could have picked from, and I had a hard time, because I had, like, at 1.8 Double Dash courses on my list. When I was trying to just...
That's half the tracks of the game.
I know. It's just so good. Like, I can't help it. Double Dash really kicks ass for me. Like, and I will fight anyone who says that it's like, oh, it's not even good. It's like, I've never hit anybody in my life. You are getting close. But no, I think DK Mountain is definitely the best Double Dash course, to say the least. But it is just shy of my number 1, but we'll get to that later.
All right. Time for my number 2 then. You know, Mario Kart 8 has long been my favorite game, so it's finally time. Actually, what are the odds? Both of us, like the games that we've acknowledged for a long time as like our favorites,
that's kind of ironic,
end up in our number 2 spots.
It means we're not biased.
Oh, absolutely. I will say, for me in general, I think Mario Kart gets a little bit of recency bias on the whole. Like, I do really, really like World, but like I guarantee there will be a time I go back to 8 and I'll be like, man, this is still really good. For 8, my number 2 choice, Dragon Driftway.
Yes!
So I was really torn. Like when the original Mario Kart 8 came out, I loved a lot of the tracks in the game. I remember seeing the DLC announced though too. And there's something with DLC in games, because like the same thing happens for me with Smash Brothers, where it's like, I would always just gravitate toward the downloadable content for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And a similar thing kind of happened with 8, with Dragon Driftway, and the other one that I was torn with putting in here, which would be Wild Woods. Another really good track. And the commonality between those but I think Dragon Driftway does better is kind of going back to that Berlin Byways idea of like a lot of satisfying actions back to back to back. You know, you drive into the Dragon's Head, and it's based on a Super Mario Galaxy 2 boss. A rare time, by the way, for that game getting a reference, because it seems like Nintendo just forgets about Mario Galaxy 2's existence, which is a shame, because it's a really good game. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can do a lot of those really great, like, almost a circle turns that I like. And, like, it starts with, like, these 3, like, you have 3 ramps right back to back to back to back that can just trick. And just pulling it off, it feels good. It's got the spinners throughout, right? That you go through when you're on anti-gravity, and you get the little boost off of that. There's a little tiny shortcut toward the start where if you have a mushroom, you can get another trick off of a ramp. And just the whole time, it just feels nice to play. It feels satisfying. You just get to do those, like, there's something about chaining those actions together. Like, I'm thinking about it now. And I guess to be fair, they did do this in Mario Kart Tour, but I mean, Mario Kart Tour is just not, on the whole, a very good game because of its limitations, not to mention all the gotcha stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole other can of worms. But I was just thinking, like, man, I'm kind of surprised Mario Kart never did, like, a combo system. But that is something they did in Tour, where you would get, like, more points for, like, chaining together, like, tricks and good drifts. So, because that's a lot of what you experience in Drag and Driftway that I think makes it a satisfying track to go around, is like, trick, big drift, oh, huge boost. Oh, there's the spinner, let me get a little boost off of that. Oh, someone's in front of me and they're about to go with it? No, red shell. And it's like, it just, again, it feels good to play. Aesthetically, great looking. It's nice to see, like, these very different, like, very, obviously Nintendo's a Japanese company, so, like, they're going to do these Eastern inspired tracks if they can, because in most of the time they do more Western styled ones, because, I mean, Mario's a white plumber, right? He's a very westernized kind of character. So you see these more, like, westernized kind of settings. So it's nice just seeing that, like, pop of, like, they're really paying respects to their homeland as developers, or, like, their home region of the world, perhaps. And again, what does it come back to with a lot of these too? The music. So good. It is so catchy. Oh man, like I can't get enough of listening to it whenever I pick it. So Dragon Driftway, amazing track in my opinion.
Well, Brandon, we have hit the finish line.
We've hit the finish line. You have no comment on Dragon Driftway? Did I just summarize it that well?
You did. I can't really add anything because, like, Dragon Driftway was on my list for best courses, and I had to just drop it just because, like, as much as I love that course, I just loved other ones so much more. But that's easily a top 10 course for me. But, like, you kind of wrapped every thought I could possibly have in that pretty well.
If you were doing a Mario Kart 8 list only, it would be on there.
It would be number 2, yes. It would 100% be number 2.
All right. Well, like you said, we've reached the finish line. The checkered flag is waving. What is the best Mario Kart track in your opinion?
We've talked about a lot of courses, kind of in addition to this. Unfortunately for you, my number 1 is one that you have not exactly been a fan of.
Uh-oh.
It's Coconut
There's a
Mall.
certain shopping center.
It's Coconut Mall. I'm sorry, I can't not pick
Oh my God,
Coconut
it's fine.
Mall. It's just... Okay, so hear it out. I can't believe I have to sit here and defend it against you, of all people.
There's a reason it was the first track revealed for the Booster Course Pass, because people love it.
And I am sadly one of them who has absolutely drank the Kool-Aid on that one. But, oh my god, just Coconut Mall is just such a good time every time I play it. Like, the music, especially when you start it off, is just so catchy that you're never in a bad mood when you're driving. Like, I could be in 12th place and I'm like, da, 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 da. Like, it's just, yes. You can't not be at least enjoying it to some degree with Coconut Mall. I love that much. Getting into the actual intricacies of the track, I just love, like, as simple of a concept as, what if Mario Kart raced through a mall? They really did some good work with this course. Like, it does need credit for it. Like, in level design for this, it's incredible. Because, like, the escalators part alone, I'm always impressed by, because they have one that goes up and one that goes down, and then at the next lap, they flip. And I never thought about that until, like, recently when I was trying to pick this for my list. It's like, that's such a cool concept, because it's like, could you imagine you think you're going up the escalator and you're actually just fighting the down escalator? I love that stuff. I love the shortcut that it has through going the one store on the second floor. I love the addition of, like, using, like, fountains and stuff as a way to just get air so you can do tricks. I love the parking garage aspect, and I love weirdly enough, I like the parking lot aspect of it because it's like it's so stupid and such a frustrating part. But I'm like, this is exactly what it can be like sometimes. It's just people aren't stupid and just going back and forth in the same parking spot, but just the feeling of it. Just it makes sense to me when I'm playing it because I'm like trying to navigate around idiot drivers who can't see, where they're going in and out of the parking lot, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly it. This is 100% what it feels like every time that I'm trying to get out of a mall parking lot. It's such a simple course, and it's definitely like I see the argument of overplayed and overhyped and all that stuff. But I'm sorry, I just can't get over how much I love this specifically. Like, it's such a simple idea that has more or less kind of grown into, like, its own enigma in the Mario Kart, like, franchise that, like, I can't not enjoy Coconut Mall. Like, it's in the Mount Rushmore of Mario Kart Tracks for me. I am being severely sincere when I say that. Coconut Mall is, like, one of the best of all time from any game, and I will die on that hill.
Any like feeling that I have that's negative about Coconut Mall honestly just comes down to that oversaturation aspect. But I have to give it credit because, the first few times I played Mario Kart Wii, I was right beside all you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I think I would agree. Like, having a mall track is a really cool concept. I think they pull it off really well. I just don't want to play it all the time. That's really the only problem I have with it. And it's got like I think a lot of those design aspects you pointed out are really fun aspects. Mm-hmm. There's also like that bit like before you go into the parking lot, there are 2 different levels you can exit out of too.
Right.
Like they give you all kinds of little different like tricks and alternate routes in it. Like you mentioned with the store toward the earlier on part of the track, or whether you like go on the top level and drop down to the fountain or like drive straight down the escalator to it. Like they did a really good job with the track. You probably would have been among the people who did not or would not have initially liked how it was in the Booster Course Pass, because when it was first added to that last section with the cars, they changed them to Shy Guys, and they were just stationary obstacles.
I wonder if that was partially a design choice because they didn't feel comfortable having like a kids game where people get cars hitting your cars.
I don't think it was even so much for that. I think it was just like, for as much as you like that, where they like go back and forth, for a lot of people, or like for me especially, that to me was one of the most frustrating parts of the track.
But that's what separates the men from the boys.
I know. And because of the outcry for it, when the second wave, the DLC was released, or there might have been a update in the middle, I don't remember, but they changed it so the Shy Guys that are driving it periodically do donuts. So it's not quite the same as them driving back and forth, but there's still like a chaotic...
It's even more chaotic, is what you said.
I don't know. I think the donuts are a little bit easier to avoid. But either way, it's a good track.
If I'm thinking of it from the perspective of I'm just trying to get to the mall and I saw a bunch of Shy Guys doing donuts in the parking lot, I don't need to shop today. I'm going home. I'm not dealing with that.
That's fair. I don't know that I'd want to go shopping at Coconut Mall when it's being... raced through.
You just hear on the intercom system in the mall. It's like, attention Coconut Mall shoppers, we regret to inform you that the latest Mario Kart race will begin shortly. Please take your final purchases and please make your way out of the mall. Unless you, like, I could see them doing something like that in Mario Universe. It's just this like Koopa who's just, he's so done with the job and he's like
all right, they're playing the Flower Cup again. Everyone get out of here.
I'm going to take my smoke break.
Well, so we had this thing with our number 2s where it's like we both picked some of our favorite games, but they end up having our second favorite tracks. I also picked a Mario Kart Wii track as my number 1.
Yeah! I promise to everyone listening, this was not intended. I found out all of these picks firsthand like everyone else's.
No, see, most of the time when we do our notes, we have like a Google Doc that we share.
Yeah.
When we do separate stuff like this, like I made a Google Keep list that I don't share it with them. And it's just like easy for making lists. Anyway, I mentioned this at the start when we were talking about the rules. I am a fiend for one particular type of course, right? And I could have done a list of just these. But I gotta pay my respects to what either is my favorite Rainbow Road or what has recently been supplanted by Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road.
Oh.
That being Rainbow Road Wii.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To me, the Wii Rainbow Road exemplifies everything that I would want in a Rainbow Road. To me, it's like it stands in opposition to what I consider to be the worst Rainbow Road, other than 64. 64 is the worst Rainbow Road because it takes 6 minutes to race.
I won't even argue on that one. That one definitely.
And it gets boring by the middle of the second lap.
Oh, yeah.
Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road, to me, is like if you wanted like instant roller coaster, you know? It's just so fast and so chaotic. And again, many satisfying actions. You get to drive down and go like, whoa, swerve left and right to go to the little rings with the boost pads. And then toward the turn, you can either take the turn at the very start if you want to, or you can go up on the half pipe. And it feels so cool. Mm-hmm. I love the Mario Galaxy style aesthetic in it with like you have the star bits up in the sky and like there's like that launch star area. I mean, it's not exactly the same as like the launch star in Galaxy, but like you launch this ring and it does like the kind of the harp like music from Galaxy for it. Like just so many little iconic areas of that track and just feels fast and efficient the entire time. Like I love a Mario Kart track that goes like so fast. Mm-hmm. And again, it just stands in opposition to me to the 7 one that everyone loves, because everyone like that loves it is like, oh, it's such a nice adventure. And it's like, I don't necessarily need that in Rainbow Road. To me, that's not what Rainbow Road has ever been. To me, Rainbow Road has always been about like, again, being this kind of roller coaster. That's how Wii's feels, DS's, Double Dash's, Super Circuits even, but that's more because all the walls, like I mentioned this last time, all the walls in it are just bounce pads, you know? It just feels like, and because it's so fast and it's so much of this roller coaster, it's also like a really great test of your capabilities. And that's something I don't think the 7 version leaves you with. So I had to pay respects to it, even if my opinion may be finally shifting after probably 15 years. I would think I got Mario Kart Wii in 2010.
Yeah, I definitely can't argue. Like, it's probably one of the best Rainbow Roads for sure. I kind of avoided putting a Rainbow Road on personally, mostly because it's like, they're so polarizing courses. There's high highs and there's low lows, and definitely Rainbow Road for the Wii is very much on that high spectrum. Like, it's such a good course because you can kind of be able to just drive. In a weird way, you can almost drive just about any way while on the course, and it will still work. There's not really an optimal way, it feels like, when you're driving it. Like, besides from, like, obviously if you're able to hit all the pads and, you know, drift correctly and all that stuff, whatever. But, like, there's never a wrong way to take the course, if that makes sense. And like you said, like, that Super Mario Galaxy aesthetic that it really hits home with, it is perfect for what it is. Because like everything up until this point, it's like going into like Mario Kart Wii, it was like, yeah, it's Rainbow Road, it's rainbows and space, but there's never like a cohesiveness to it. And then Wii brings it all home with more of a theme. And I don't remember if Galaxy came out before this course. It probably did, or if it was coming out at the same time-ish. But
Galaxy was 2007.
Okay,
Wii was 8.
Yeah, so there was definitely some inspiration, to say the least. But I love that Rainbow Road finally has like a cohesiveness to it, where it feels like it belongs in the Mario universe because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so good. I cannot put into words without just like rambling and stumbling and bumbling here as to like why I love it so much. And what have we not touched on yet again? The music is so good.
It's so
It is
good.
just like, oh, again, amazing. Like it feels, it just kind of adds to the chaos. To me, it fits that Rainbow Road feeling perfectly. And man, I tell ya, I feel kind of sad thinking about the idea that it might be riding off into the sunset, becoming my second Rainbow Road. But like Worlds, it's got a pretty darn good Rainbow Road. I don't really want to go into why here necessarily, because I don't, the game came out, today's the 13th, so 8 days ago. I don't really want to spoil anybody because it is like the one track in the game you have to unlock. But, if we get further on here, I definitely got to talk about it, because if it's got the shot of supplanting my favorite Mario Kart track for years, it's doing something pretty special.
Yeah, that was a fun topic.
Races won, trophies are in hand. We had a good time.
I feel very happy with like all of our picks, and I'm actually kind of more impressed we didn't double up in any capacity. Like that, I'm more shocked by than anything. Like we didn't have at least like one that was on both lists.
I think that goes to show the quality of how many tracks there are in the series. Because you're right. I think, for it would be very easy in a lot of ways to expect that there would be some crossover. I also think it's fair, though, to point out that, like, I guess technically we had 8. Like, we didn't really have a top 8 because we didn't place where our honorable mentions would go. Mm-hmm. But, in a series where there's just so many iconic locations, you're right. You'd think some of those are just so universally agreed upon that there would be some crossover. But just with how many good, phenomenal tracks there are, maybe that crossover is less expected than you think. But had we had longer lists, if like, let's say it wasn't just the two of us, let's say we had a third or a fourth person talking about this, I guarantee it's possible we would have had some crossover on at least one of those lists, you'd think. Maybe not the exact spot, but just like each mentioning the same track at some point.
Well, right. And like, I think that was probably the best case with everything, where, there's so many courses over the course of, how many games has it been now for Mario Kart? At least like, it's like technically 9 or 10 or however many it is. Like,
if it depends on how, like, which ones you include. Like, if you exclude the arcade games and you exclude Tour, then it should be 9, because it should be Super 64.
We're strictly talking 9 mainline games.
Yeah.
So the fact that after almost 10 games in, like, what's it been, like, pushing 30 years now?
It's at least 30, because it had to be like 92, I think, for Super Mario Kart.
Something like that, probably, yeah. Like, it really shows the testament that, and the legacy of Mario Kart as a whole. Like, this game easily could have, like, it's had some low points, but, like, the low points have never been in a position where it actively sunk the franchise, I know 7 we kind of rag on a little bit. Like, 7's not a bad game. It's just kind of a forgettable game in the series. So, like, having something like Mario Kart 8 that really exemplified the popularity of it to a new high, I'm sure is definitely helping the case with Mario Kart World specifically. So, I can definitely see, like, this game honestly probably will make, like, by the time that I'm old and crinkly, by Mario Kart like 15 or whatever it'll be by that point. But like, it's still gonna be good no matter what. Like, I will still be able to, like, eventually have, my grandkids one day will actively be able to play that with me, and it's never gonna be a bad time. I will put them in their place, but it will be a good time.
Yep, they'll be like, Grandpa,
can't you let us win?
I don't know what you see in this Double Dash game, Grandpa. Like,
I'm about to put them in their place if they ever say that. Mm-hmm. How dare you?
One of the combos is just a Koopa and a Koopa with wings. Like, how is that exciting?
It's like I've never hit a kid before.
Never hit a child. It's not good for them.
Yes, full disclosure, never hit kids. I'm doing this for comedy's sake. Do not take me at face value. I will never hit a child. That is not okay.
You're not like Bender in Futurama, where he's like a little bit more serious, even though in the context of the show, being a show, it's a joke.
Shut up, baby. I know it.
All right, well, this is one of our longest episodes in a while. We're doing pretty good at going shorter here, and now it seems like we've consistently been on like a longer episode trend.
To be fair, that's partially my fault with the massive discussion going into the Final Fantasy stuff. That's definitely my fault. I will take full blame on that one. I just couldn't get over the fact that I really enjoyed it. But yeah.
This main topic did take up the bulk of the episode.
That's alright. We were overdue probably for a longer episode.
Probably.
Final thoughts? Anything in terms of what's going on with you or anything with the topic? I mean, we kind of wrapped everything with the Mario Kart side pretty okay.
Yeah, I think we've put the ribbon road on this topic.
Shut up.
I think that means it's time to go in our normal conclusion-y stuff, folks. I hope you had a fantastic time listening to this. I hope it's inspired you to perhaps share your favorite Mario Kart track in the form of a written or verbal comment, like at speakpipe.com/endless conversation loop. We would love to hear from you on that. Otherwise, again, if you enjoyed the discussion, certainly give it a like on whichever platform you happen to be listening to this on. Yeah, otherwise I think we are ready to sign off.
Only thing I have to add before I forget, just in terms of keeping people up to date, there is some progress being made on some new socials for the ECL podcast and whatnot. I'm currently in the middle of talking to an artist friend of mine to try to get a revamped logo, as it were. Brandon gave me some, 2 cents here on everything that he would like to see with it, so I'm still passing the word on, but figured I'd let people know that, hey, we are going to be getting socials hopefully in the near-ish future. Depends on how long it takes to get it commissioned and whatnot, but hopefully...
Expanding the empire.
That's a very loose word of empire, but sure. But we'll hopefully have some socials that once those are all up and running, the next podcast after we get those all situated and put together and everything's all good on both of our ends with it, we'll let you guys know. So that way, we'll be able to have more places for people to share their opinions.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll keep our eyes out for that. Hopefully they end up being something good. We'll need to... But people will know when that stuff is out. I'll be changing, if they're watching the video version, they'll see the new art for all that stuff. So it'll be a good time. But with that, I am Brandon.
And I am Boom.
And we will be back next time with some kind of topic that I've yet to decide.
Ooh, it's going to be a surprise to everyone. I mean, everyone is, but...
It's a surprise until you get here.
You right. Bye, everybody.
Yep, thanks for listening.